All right, now we're going to talk about invading somebody's privacy. All right, is the right to privacy something that is in the Constitution or Bill of Rights? This is a question for you. Let's think about this for a moment. I always like when I give these awkward pauses. I just picture you sitting in front of your screen thinking, Adam, let's move on. Anyhow, so the answer is no, it's not actually in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. The concept of a right to privacy dates back to an 1890 Harvard Law Review article titled The Right to Privacy. And it just happened to be co-authored by Louis D. Brandeis, I guess, who later became a Supreme Court justice. So there you have it, folks. And so, what they wrote in I'm sorry, what that person that Justice Brandeis, I guess is how you say that, later wrote in the statement regarding the decision on Olmstead versus the United States, is that the makers of the Constitution recognized the significance of a man's spiritual nature and his feelings and of his intellect. They sought to protect Americans in their beliefs, their thoughts, their emotions, and their sensations. They conferred against the government the right to be left alone. And so that was, it's one of those things where it's kind of interesting because we always think, oh, there's a right to privacy, like it must be like in the Bill of Rights, but it's one of those things that came out of, the judicial branch just over the course of time. Fascinating, huh? All right, so there are four recognized kinds of invasion: public disclosure of private and embarrassing facts, false light, misappropriation, and intrusion. We're going to talk about all of them. So, public disclosure of private or embarrassing facts is basically whenever the media, be it a newspaper, a blog, what have you, publicizes private information that a reasonable person would find highly offensive and which is not of any legitimate public interest. So if like if like Mayor Ford of formerly of Toronto, of course, had all kinds of private issues like his cocaine addiction and and drunken benders and whatnot. And so it could be made the case that he has a right to privacy, except that he's the mayor of Toronto, and so number three comes into play. And so we say that there's a public interest, like people need to know, that their mayor is on a coke binge, and so, that that's why we say here at the bottom, the primary defense, if you're the writer, is newsworthiness, and then the burden of proof is on you as the defendant. So you have to make the case that the people needed to know, and that's why it was okay to publish those private or embarrassing facts. So false light is a little bit different. It's a little easier to prove than a charge of libel. And basically, it just means that something, whether an utterance or a picture or an allusion in a written piece, casts a person in a false light in the public eye. And so, a funny example of this is just like a picture is used to illustrate an article to which is no connection. So if there's an article in the Collegiate Times about like students being involved in some kind of drug ring on campus, and they pull a stock photo that they've had of just some random students outside of a dorm, and you happen to be in that picture, and people recognize you, it makes it look like you're part of this drug ring. And so I just made that up on the spot. That was a pretty good example. Anyhow, so you have the grounds to sue for false light, because they didn't do their job, and so like you're not actually connected to this drug ring at all. Hopefully, there's no drug ring on campus. I just want to be clear. So anyway, misappropriation is more in the commercial sense than what you guys will be dealing with, but it is whenever you use somebody's name or likeness for the purpose of trade or advertising without that person's consent. So again, if somebody took a picture of you and you're in the background and they just thought you were cool looking, and so they started plastering you all over their new advertisement for, socks, say. Not as good as the last one, I know. Anyhow, you can sue for misappropriation. You can say, look, I didn't give you the permission to use my face to sell socks. And basically this law is intended to allow people to control the commercial use and exploitation of their own identities. So again, it typically only is in the commercial realm, but just wanted you to know. Intrusion's pretty straightforward. Basically, if you trespass, set up surveillance, or misrepresent people's information, then you can be sort of charged with intrusion. And so again, the best defense for this is newsworthiness, and so you look at the guy Deep Throat that they interviewed during the Watergate era. They serve, like he was recorded secretly and whatnot, and and they had a pretty good reason for that, and they said, no, it's newsworthy, we needed to know, and the court sided with them. So fascinating, huh? All right, that was it for invasion of privacy. Let's make this a short video. I just wanna